Greetings, this is Artie from Artifact Electronics. Lately I've been having a hard time finding stuff, so that would be worth making a video for. But in all honesty, I haven't been trying real hard either. I've had less important things to do, but a few days ago I went to a high-end electronics store and I found this thing sitting on the shelf. A Sega Genesis. In most of the world, the Sega Genesis was known as the Sega Mega Drive. But since this is America, it was called a Genesis. This is the revision 2, I guess the Slim Genesis. There also was a revision 3, which was an even slimmer Genesis. But this was sitting on a shelf, which kind of surprised me because people are all over these stores buying anything that looks like vintage electronics for whatever price. And hey, it was just sitting there and asking me to adopt it, so I did. I paid the princely sum of $5 for it. It most likely works. People just kind of dump these things. But let's hook it up and see what it looks like. But it begs the question, why is it called a Genesis in the US or North America and the Mega Drive everywhere else? Mega Drive sounds nice and techno-babblish, but Genesis? I guess they figured there were a lot of fans of progressive rock bands in the US and they'd prefer that name. But leave me a comment if you have any insight about the naming conventions on these. So let's put together the test setup. We have a video cable. And of course, you know that to use a non-standard video cable. The Genesis one just used RCA plugs, but they had to make some more money selling proprietary video cables for this. And just let's see, what is this power supply? It's a 10 volt DC supply. And we plug that in. And it really doesn't do anything if you don't put a cartridge into it. There's no built-in OS on these things. So we'll put in Tecmo Baseball. We're hooked up to the handy-dandy bench monitor. We'll turn on the power strip and off we go. And nothing happens. A clear giveaway is that the power light doesn't seem to come on. Try to reset it. Exercise the power switch a few times. It does click and stay down, but nothing happens. So my guess is has something to do with the power supply, which is the most common problem with these because it just has an internal, like a 7805 voltage regulator that takes the input voltage, regulates it to 5 and drives the whole system. So let's see if my guess is right and take it apart. If I remember correctly, there's like 4 screws underneath in the corners. But as I look at it, there are no screws in here. I guess somebody attempted to repair this thing prior to me. So, you know, yep, it's open. I didn't even realize the screws were removed, but I guess the old repair thing. Let's open it up, have a look around. Nowadays everything is blamed on capacitors, so let's see if we have a capacitor waving a flag saying replace me, or some other component that is obviously damaged. And see, but yes, it has, you can't really see this, but the shield on top, I'm trying to get an angle on it, has a dent right here. So somebody dropped something on here or got angry at it when he couldn't fix it or whatever, but yeah, it has gotten a pretty nice impact right here. And that must have happened while it was open, because the plastic case doesn't, other than being dirty and worn, doesn't show anything over here. So yeah, this thing was open and something got dropped on it. But it must have been defective already, because that was the reason why it got opened. So let's take the shield off and get the PCB out. There's a bunch of screws around it. We'll take the screws out and have a further look. Okay, I removed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws that hold this shield in place. And the whole thing comes off. Yeah, see, you can kind of see the dent over here. Good way to fix electronics. But here's the PCB, and in order to get that out, there's 2 more screws to remove, and they hold the cartridge connector. Stabilize it, hold it to the bottom of the case. And something just sounded like it fell off. Oh, there's a screw here. It was made in June of '93. Can you see that? Just barely. Come on, focus. I mean, reflect properly. Anyway, this thing's marked with a 6 and a 93, so June of '93. And here's the PCB, and we can look at it. This is a general area where the impact occurred that dented the shield. The only thing I can see is the LEDs kind of bent forward here, but nothing too bad. And I'm going to have a close look at this and look for flag waving components that tell me they've gone bad. So for a quick tour here, and no, I didn't find anything. I mean, nothing jumped out at me, but we've got a Motorola 68000 main processor over here. Various memory chips here, here, and here. And then we get this big ASIC that is basically the video generator. But it does more, because the original Genesis, the one, had a Z80 coprocessor and a Yamaha 4-operator FM chip, and I don't see the Yamaha chip or the Z80 on here, so they stuffed it all into this ASIC over here. I don't know how they got permission from Yamaha to do that, but somewhere on here, I mean, there's 2 chips that I can't figure out what they are, this one and this one, and maybe those are the FM chips. But it's basically functionally equivalent to the Genesis one, but much reduced in chip count, not necessarily in pin count. I mean, this thing is humongous, has a lot of pins on it, and that's about it. That's what's in here, but she don't work. So let's start from the beginning and see what happens when we plug power into it. Alright, power on. So let's see, what do we get at the connector? .8 volts, and that's supposed to be a 10-volt supply, but there's no load on it, obviously, so things are nothing's getting powered up. forgot to point it out, but basically the 5 volt regulator sits here. It's this guy right here. And the terminals are conveniently labeled I for input, the middle one is G for ground, and the right side one is O for output. So let's remember that. I is this pin, the one closest to the front of the PCB, which we can tell by the joystick connectors. Center is ground, and this one is the output that should be giving us 5 volts. So ground, this is ground. Let's see, what's on the output? Oh, sorry, the input. So the input is getting 12.82 . Ouch. Well, that's kind of weird. Oh, I have, this is ground. So we're basically getting, the input, this is the input. We're getting 0.425 volts on the input and nothing at the output. So that kind of destroys my theory, well, partially destroys the theory that the regulator is bad, because the regulator needs at least, 7.5 volts to generate 5. And it's only getting nothing. Well, there is a power switch. Which seems to latch. On, no, on, off, on, off. So this means it should be on. And without any power, so this is getting even simpler. Let's see if we can actually, if the power switch is working. So these are the terminals of the power switch, and you can see the input is coming, let's see, this is the hot terminal. So that's connected to the hot terminal of the input. And the other two contacts, I'm not getting anything. So if we just measure it right here at the power switch, there's no continuity here. So you hit the switch. Nope. The switch is not cooperating. So this could be as simple as a bad power switch. Believe it or not, that does happen, and I think we're faced with something like that. There's the power switch. Kind of filthy. But let's test our theory first. And the way we're going to do that is put a cartridge in. And then just emulate the power switch by shorting the power switch pins and seeing what happens. Alright, so all I'm going to do is take one end of the alligator clips and clip the terminals of the power switch together, and then apply power. I'm going to use the power strip over there as my on-off switch. And it's not going to work if I don't plug in the video cable. So, oh, that's great fit. Nice reflection there. Let's get this thing out of the way. And try number 2. Oh. Looks like this thing has a bad power switch. Really? That simple? Okay, I just took the temporary power switch off. Let's exercise the power switch a bit here. If it's dirt, nope, I can't bring that thing back to life, so let's try something else. And that is, let's use some IPA. Maybe that'll clean it up. Just squirt it in here. It does definitely click into place. Okay, let's let it dry. It's almost dry. Helps to use canned air to spray in the general area because it'll spread out the IPA and make it evaporate faster. Quick word about IPA. IPA works really well in cleaning up PCBs and just other types of dirty annoyances. But IPA is considered a mild skin irritant. So if you use a lot of IPA and you start getting red spots on your hands and stuff, that unfortunately comes with the territory. They are mild, very mild, but they even when you go to the doctor to get a shot, it's IPA they use to clean your arms or buttocks or whatever before injecting you. And if those areas turn red, the mild skin, you're definitely allergic to the mild skin irritant. My own personal opinion is do not use denatured alcohol because that has a lot of added garbage in it. Methane is one of the things, and just a bunch of other things that I would not use because you don't want to get that stuff on your hands, and you really don't want to inhale the fumes. But that's just my opinion. No reason to stray away from IPA. All right, let's see. It should be dry now. The power is on. And nothing. Oh, did you see that? It briefly came up. There. If I hold it just right, and the minute I let go, it goes away. So, diagnosis completed. The fix isn't, it's not difficult, but it's not convenient either because I don't happen to have a power switch just like this one. So what I want to do is remove it from the board and see if I can take it apart and clean the contacts in it. Just use a soldering iron and desoldering braid and took out all 5 terminals. I don't think this fifth one is being used. It's probably just a guide pin, but let's see. Where is that switch? There it is. Let's wiggle it. Oh, it seems loose. And out it comes. So here's a switch. And it looks like the top is a separate piece than the bottom. It's not plastic welded together or anything. So let me mess around with a small screwdriver and see if I can get the top off. I was actually able to take the switch apart, and all of these pieces fell out. But I didn't break any of the plastic casing, but there's quite a lot of corrosion on the main contacts, which probably can't see, but I could attempt to clean this up, but even if you clean it up, probably the corrosion will come back and die again. And there's a second reason, an overriding reason, is I already tried. I'm too fat-fingered to put this thing back together again. Every time I try to put it back together, pieces go flying in all directions and it makes crunching sounds, and so this isn't going to work. I could probably go and find another power switch, but what I'm going to do with my available resources at this instant is use a regular power switch, probably mount it on the side of the case, and be done with it. So the switch, I connected the switch to these two contacts we looked at earlier, which wouldn't close. And here's the switch. And now comes the difficult part, which is finding a place in the case to mount this. But before all of that, let's test and see if our handiwork fixed the problem. So I attached the switch, and things seem to fit. I mean, the wire kind of, when routed around this standoff, seems to come out without impeding the board from laying flat. And yeah, so here we go. It works, no big surprise. It's simply an on-off switch in place of the broken one. But what I just noticed is the power LED doesn't work. When was the last time you saw an LED burn out? Well, alright, I guess I gotta go search through my stuff and see if I can find an LED like this. I replaced the LED with a cool color, not that boring red. I had to replace the wires for the switch because I decided to mount the switch on the back, and I had of course cut the wires too short, so new set of wires. But everything's in place and the case actually closes. So let me put all the screws back in and we'll have a final look at her. And the LED wasn't actually burned out. When I removed it, it came off in two pieces. So whatever impacted the RF shield, I mean the LED sits under here, under this hole, got broken, or somebody, I don't know what happened here, somebody stuck a screwdriver in here and tried to pry this open, or whatever. But anyway, so the LED didn't burn out, it got mechanically destroyed. I got everything put back together, except I got to find some screws to hold the two case halves together. I have many screws, but they're all over the place, so we won't be waiting for that now. And for our final test, we will use a cool game, Pac-Mania. And There you go. Now note the power light, which is really cool. You can see that from anywhere, and it really accessorizes the machine properly. But here you go. Oh, another, as you saw before, the console was $5, but they also had one of these joysticks. But the joystick was $6, but that's worth it. So let's go. Uh-oh. Well, at least it looks like the controller is working. And so is the Genesis. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. And you'll know what to do next time you find a Sega Genesis that doesn't want to turn on. So please like, subscribe, share, and leave me a comment. We'll see you next time.